Well, thank you very much. After such a wonderful performance of music, song, and dance, I'm not too sure you want to listen to me. And also because I'm neither an economist and certainly I'm not a veterinary professional. But nevertheless, I, of course, would like to thank the President of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, Dr. Sushant Malvarachi, all the members of the Executive Council of SLVA, the distinguished guests, my colleagues on the dais, the members of SLVA, the awardees today, the ladies and gentlemen present here. I would like to first of all say, Ayubovan, Vanakkam, Namaskar, very good evening to all of you. And I would like to thank all of you for giving me this honor, this opportunity to be with you today at the 74th Annual Convention of SLVA as you complete 82 years of the existence of this association. First, during the existence of this country as Ceylon, and now, of course, as Sri Lanka. The President of SLVA and its council members, and all the members indeed, I would like to compliment them for the activities conducted despite the challenges of COVID pandemic, and we saw glimpses of those activities in the beginning of today's event. Very important and productive activities, whether in person or in virtual format, have been conducted. There were a few webinars on very important topics. So it speaks of your professional commitment. It speaks of the cause you are serving. It speaks of your dedication to your profession, your country, your community, your people, and their pets. And here, I would like to introduce an element. The President, Dr. Malvarachi, said very kind words for me, and among them that when he sent the word asking if I would like to be here joining you today, I responded very quickly and I said yes. I would like to share the reason because, well, I have a member in my family who has benefited from the service of some of you. I am the proud owner, or, well, the family member of a cat called Minchi. So, a few years ago, I am converted to being an animal lover, and I immensely value the joy these silent companions bring to our lives. My colleague, Rakesh, who is here, is a medical professional, turned a diplomat. I sometimes think that how difficult it might be to take care of patients, to find out, to diagnose, to treat, to prescribe, to perform operations and then post-operative care on patients who cannot even communicate, who cannot even speak in any way. With human beings, perhaps it is easier. We can say, oh, my hand is paining, or I have a pain in the stomach. With silent animals who are barely able to convey anything, except for those who can read their gestures. Like I am now, over the past few years, got used to understanding the language my cat uses in communicating with me. I think it's an extremely difficult task, but also a task which is very noble. In India, one of the first things we teach to children is to be kind, not only to fellow human beings, but to everyone. And if medical service, if medicine is a noble profession, veterinary science is even more noble, because you care for those, as I said, who are barely able to convey even their pain or their problem. But it is not only a noble profession, it is also an immensely beneficial profession in terms of its economic significance. In terms of being the very essence of the civilization we know as it is today. Please don't be surprised. Please don't think that I am exaggerating. There is a solid historical reason. There is a solid evolutionary reason behind what I say. You would all know that when human beings began evolving not as humans but hominids, human-like, our ancestors millions of years ago came down from arboreal life, tree life, to the grasslands. And when they came down to grasslands, they were first hunters and gatherers. But when millions of years later, human beings, Homo sapiens, emerged, whatever the subspecies, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, or whatever, and they or their descendants started a more settled mode of life, then first time the signs of civilization began to emerge. And what are the signs of civilization? The signs of civilization is, first of all, an economy geared towards production. An incipient, even preliminary form of agricultural production, which later on led to settlements, larger and larger settlements as the millennia went by. And finally, after the Ice Age, of course, nearer our times, after prehistory, coming to a time when there was surplus, there were urban settlements, and all this, of course, underpinned by communication and readable, decipherable scripts. Now, where do animals fit in all this? Immediately after the first step of agricultural production. That is the time, ladies and gentlemen, thousands and thousands of years ago, this symbiotic relationship between these animals, which are put here on the panel on your mace, the symbiotic relationship between them and human beings started and has continued, has evolved to this date. In a sense, our civilization, our cultural evolution has happened together with our relationship, the evolution of our relationship with the animals that we know so closely and who are part of not only our lives as pets, but also, whether we realize it in everyday existence or not, they are part of our existence as human beings and as civilization. That is the reason why you see so many of them on the cave paintings. That is why you see so many of them in wall murals and even in national symbols. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a very deep civilizational association which your profession has with entire humanity and its existence. I also mentioned to its economic existence, and I will return to economic significance, and I will return to it a few minutes later. But let me permit, first of all, now, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, to say a few words about the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. Because what I am going to speak about, the economic significance of your profession, will ultimately tie in with that aspect. As you are aware, ladies and gentlemen, India and Sri Lanka are close, friendly neighbors, the closest maritime neighbors for each other. We go back thousands and thousands of years with our civilizational ties, whether it is Buddhism or other religions, whether it is common linguistic roots, whether it is the way we dress, we speak, we eat food, we converse. There are so many similarities that, actually speaking, many of us could pass off as Sri Lankans, as Indians, if we are in India. Many of us, my colleagues and me included, could pass off Sri Lankans when we are in Sri Lanka. This similarity is not the end in itself. The similarity underpins the similarity and shared values. These values are civilizational values. These values are the values which Buddhism has given us, which our culture has given us, which our democracy and which our diversity have given us. Respect for diversity, respect for democracy, and working for prosperity, for progress of all our citizens is something which our democracy is enjoying on both of us. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a coincidence, although it is a very happy historical milestone for both our countries that we celebrate 75 years of our respective independence in close proximity, not only geographical, but also chronological to each other. India completed its 75 years of independence on this 15th August 2022. Sri Lanka is running its 75th year of independence, and this will culminate on the 4th of February, just 1 week after the Republic Day of India, which is 26th January. I'm very happy that we are working very closely with the government of Sri Lanka to commemorate the 75 years of India's independence and Sri Lanka's independence together, and to mark this momentous historical milestone with a few activities that will be not only historical in significance, but which will celebrate our togetherness, which will celebrate our people-centered relationship, and which will further propel our people-centered cooperation. Coming to the present, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, India has been a partner, a close partner of Sri Lanka all through our existence as two independent nations. So in the recent months, not only now, but a few years ago, whenever Sri Lanka had difficult times, as a close friend and neighbor, it has been our privilege. It has been a great honor for us to step forward and extend a helping hand to our brothers and sisters in Sri Lanka. This is, again, something which we were fortunate and privileged to do this year. And I can assure you that we will continue to be supportive of the people of Sri Lanka in their efforts to get back to economic recovery as soon as possible, in their efforts to promote stability in the country, in their efforts to promote and preserve democracy. That is the commitment that India's leadership has publicly stated. And why should it be so? It is because, ladies and gentlemen, Sri Lanka sits at the confluence of three vital streams of India's foreign policy. These three vital streams, first is neighborhood first. India, as you know, believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam means the whole world is one family. When the whole world is one family, but then in family, of course, someone is nearer to you, you feel closer to someone, perhaps than to others. For us, in this whole family, which is one world, Sri Lanka and our neighborhood is the closest. And in our neighborhood, Sri Lanka has a central place for us. So that's the first stream, neighborhood first. The second is the doctrine of Sagar, which our Prime Minister propounded in 2015. Sagar is an acronym, SAGAR, which is Security and Growth for All in the Region. Region means this Indian Ocean region. And the third, of course, is our Look East policy, which puts emphasis on the development of everyone, inclusive development and cooperation for peace, security, and progress in the entire Indo-Pacific region. So this primacy of Sri Lanka is something central to us in India, and this is what we recognize not only through our words, but strive to do it through our actions. The Vice Chancellor of Colombo University, in his learned address, mentioned a number of factors which, in his view, underpin the present situation, and he also mentioned the role of professionals and what he would prescribe for it. I think it is because of the challenges that we face that we also have the opportunity to work closer together, to cooperate even closer. I know that many of you are in close working association with your counterparts, with your Indian counterparts. And similarly, other professions also, other academicians, other academic professions, other business people, entrepreneurs, they work closely well with their Indian counterparts. And when we meet them from the High Commission, when we meet your Indian counterparts, whether they are doctors or engineers or other professionals or entrepreneurs, we always hear good words about their relationship with Sri Lankan people, not only in the professional fields, but also in a personal sense. It gives us in the High Commission immense pride that we are working here to promote a relationship which has natural foundation stone, which is very, very strong, the fraternal bonds which exist. And it is because of these fraternal bonds, ladies and gentlemen, that last year when the two governments were conferring about what to do in the situation which was at that time, exactly about a year ago, was still not taken shape, but was perhaps on the horizon. We decided to work and cooperate for 4 vectors. These 4 vectors were food security of Sri Lanka, energy security of Sri Lanka, providing support for currency stability and foreign exchange, and last but not the least, and in my personal view the most important, promoting Indian investment in Sri Lanka. Because investment goes beyond the short-term help, which of course is required, but investment creates long-term and medium-term capacities in the people, in the economy, to realize the potential which exists in Sri Lanka and which everybody recognizes that yes, Sri Lanka has that potential. So according to these broad understandings between our two governments at a very high political level, what we did in the last 12 months essentially corresponds to activities in these 4 areas. Trying to help food security, trying to help energy security, providing support for currency and foreign exchange stabilization, and promoting investment. And I'm very happy to mention to you that I and my colleagues in the High Commission have found very good response from the government and the people of Sri Lanka to our efforts in all these 4 spheres. And this is where I will come to some of the points that I wanted to mention to you about the particular areas related to or in some way connected to your profession. All of you would have heard of the Green Revolution in India, which transformed the capacities of Indian agricultural production. From a country which saw famine after famine in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, India is now a food grain net surplus country, producing more than 200 million tons per annum. Of course, our population has grown also many-fold during these years. But just as Green Revolution transformed the agricultural sector, another revolution, which many of you, I'm sure, have heard of, also transformed India's face and place. And that is the White Revolution. The revolution which, when I was born towards the late 1960s, the per capita availability in India for milk was just over 100 grams. Today, it is 4-fold. The production of milk in India today is more than 200 million tons, which is 10 times more than what it was around the time I was born. The reason for this, also many of you would know, is perhaps the policies and the cooperative movement created by a gentleman called Dr. Varghese Kurian. But that is not everything. There, of course, is a whole body of knowledge, of organized knowledge and efforts which have been devoted to creating the right type of ecosystem for promoting veterinary sciences and taking care of animal health. As a result of that, ladies and gentlemen, the dairy industry itself contributes 5% to the national economy in India and employs more than 80 million people. The dairy industry's size within the Indian economy is expected to be more than $33 billion by 2025. India is today the largest exporter of cattle and buffalo meat. It's second largest producer of goat meat and third largest producer of poultry. The overall animal feed market itself in India is valued at US $36 billion in 21 and has a 17.6%, roughly, let's say, around 1/5 of the share in the Asia-Pacific region. Animal healthcare industry is about $1 billion in terms of its value in India. Animal vaccines, many of you would be familiar with them, occupy 17% of this $1 billion share. By quoting these figures, what I wanted to mention really and point out was for about the last 50 years, there has been conscious effort in India to promote the veterinary segment and care in order to not only promote the overall economy, but actually add strength to the rural economy. Because today, the face of Indian economy has transformed from a predominantly manufacturing agrarian economy, it transformed to manufacturing, and it is transforming now to a service economy, predominantly. But that stage is still some distance away. But while we do that, we could not ignore the point that we had to create necessary strength in the rural economy and had also to look after the nutrition of our children as well as the health of our cattle population. So, ladies and gentlemen, as Sri Lanka strives to come back to the path of economic recovery, I think there will be enormous opportunities for our professionals and our entrepreneurs to collaborate in dairy development and all the areas which are related, such as cattle health and promotion of the entire ecosystem for which can lead to higher yields, higher productivity, more employment, more entrepreneurship in the dairy sector, but also higher nutritional levels and can help sustain the rural populace themselves through a difficult time. I'm very happy to mention, ladies and gentlemen, that the suggestions that we have received from government of Sri Lanka in this regard have received very good response from our Indian friends back in India, and we are from our High Commission trying our very best to promote this cooperation between Indian entities and Sri Lankan entities so that we can help our Sri Lankan brothers and sisters and entrepreneurs to share, by sharing the best of our experience that we can. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't wish to take too much of your time, but I would like to, before I conclude, I certainly would like to thank once again the organizers and SLVA and its leadership for inviting me and for all of you to listening to me patiently. And I would also like to give you my best wishes for the forthcoming festive season. In fact, when we walked in, there was such a festive environment, brightly lit up trees, brightly lit up buildings, the dance, the cultural item which was performed, the lamp that we lit up. I think these are all good omens, and I think these are all good signs for us to be hopeful that 2023 will be better than 2022. And in this hope and wish, and in the actions for realizing this hope and the wish, ladies and gentlemen, India will always be the partner of Sri Lanka that it has been. Thank you very much. Bahumai Stuti, Nandri.